So all of this is by way of saying that we've got a long way to go in our educational system to get people to reach the more ethical result in actual practice than we do now. We've got a long way to go to make it clear to people who are in the educational environment in academia to begin to recognize that you can't, it's just not enough to tell people what the rules are. In law school, all that does is empower law students to go out and figure out how to get around them. It's more important to, in addition to telling them what the rules are, to immerse them into experiences in which their own ethics are tested, where they have a personal stake in what's going on. And when people have a personal stake in what's going on, totally different parts of the brain get engaged in the decision-making process. And if we don't take cognizance of the fact that those other parts of the brain get involved in the decision-making process, it's just like sending people out to play 18 holes of golf after just telling them the elements of a perfect golf swing without giving them any practice, much less practice under the pressure of actually trying to make a shot and putting the ball in the hole. But that's what we seem to expect our professional business students, our professional law students to do by just giving them, telling them what the rules are and saying, you know, bye, good luck to you, hope you make it. There's no surprise that we have problems like Enron. It's no surprise that we had a savings and loan crisis a number of years ago. It's no surprise that we've got the whole host of the cases that we have now, from Madoff to all the other corporate disasters that we've seen recently. None of that's a big surprise at all to me. No surprise that we have Abu Ghraib, because those folks weren't trained properly, and they weren't put in an environment in which they could function very well. They were put in an environment where the situational circumstances made it almost a foregone conclusion that what would happen did. And it had very little to do with their personal character. It had a whole lot more to do with the situational circumstances. You know, experiments by Zimbardo and by Milgram have made it pretty clear that, as Kwame Appiah says in his new book, there is a case against character. Character is really a function of how we behave in various circumstances. Yvonne Agazarian, another psychologist, says it pretty well. She says that we can, and I'm paraphrasing here, but she says essentially that the group or the environment in which we operate says a whole lot more about who we can be than who we really are, even. And I think that was true in Abu Ghraib. I think it was true in all of the major corporate and financial scandals we've seen recently. There's just been an environment that's created that is so conducive to lying and other repugnant behavior that it's really hard to avoid it. So, yeah, it's one of the things that we need, and I think, ought to be addressed in education. I think it's important to really recognize the broad range of factors that drive people to do the wrong things. You know, we've been talking about ethics for a while. The other areas is just simply aggressive adversarialism, which is just as wasteful. If you can be as honest as you can be and just be as aggressive as you possibly can be, push all the limits up to the edge, just to try to destroy the other side. And when you do that, the transaction costs of resolving conflict, I think it's really self-evident, just get a lot higher, because all it does is stiffen the opposition's resistance. And so you've got force meeting force, and it almost never happens that the other side just lays down and rolls over. I've never seen a lawyer do that when I've tried to be a jerk And I've certainly never done that when somebody else has tried to be a jerk. You know, it's always tit for tat. Fight fire with fire. Don't show weakness and escalate the conflict. And that doesn't do anybody any good. It's sad that people do that, but it still happens. One of the interesting things to me is how much of myself as a human being I bring in front of a jury. I can say that the truth is not everything. One of the things I've learned is that if the other side scores a significant blow, it's important to go on as if nothing's happened. Because juries know and pick up on fear, and they know and pick up on weakness. And so when I get a body blow in the middle of a trial now, I don't focus on that blow. I detach from it. I even detach from the result and just go on to what's next. So I'm always focusing my energy in trial on what is going to make the best case and present the best case for my client. One of the things that I've also noticed is how important it is to have congruence between what the emotional content of the case is, what the emotion in the room is, and where I am in that process. If I'm talking about something that's happened to my client, it's really important that's really been outrageous, something that the other side has done that's really outrageous. I've noticed how important it is to bring in the feelings that are around that issue, just below the surface. Not yell, not scream, not discharge them into the ozone, but bring them in just under the surface. And what that does is enables the jury to sort of take them from me. So that if my client has been, for example, harmed by another corporation, by a large corporation, and my client's business, small business, has been destroyed by this large corporation, this is actually an argument I made that resulted in an $8.5 million punitive damage verdict. But the argument that I made in that case was that this large company administered the death penalty to my client's company. They killed it. They killed him. They killed his spirit. And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you need to do something about that. And that was the essence of it. It wasn't exactly in those words, but it was that sort of angry, righteous indignation about what this company had done, because their conduct was outrageous. I had earned the right to say that, let me say, during the cross-examination of their witnesses during trial, so the jury was ready to hear it. They knew that this company had done wrong, done really wrong, and they were prepared to do something about that. I can even feel the emotion as I'm talking about it right now. But that's one of the things I've really learned is how important it is to be attuned, to what's going on in the environment. You know, there have been other cases where I would love to have made that argument, but it wasn't there because the room hadn't been moved to that point by what had gone on before. And it's not so much the analytics of it all. It's whether the room, whether the jury, whether the whole environment has been moved emotionally to that point where you've earned the right to make that kind of argument.